Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we'll look at what the Mishnah and Talmud, and then confirmed by Maimonides, says about suspecting Gentiles of committing murder, of committing bestiality, which means sleeping with animals and this and that. So this is in Mishnah Avodah Zarah 2. It says, one may not keep an animal in the inns of Gentiles because they are suspected of bestiality. And below, and a woman may not seclude herself with Gentiles because they are suspected of engaging in forbidden sexual relations, and any person may not seclude himself with Gentiles because they are suspected of bloodshed. Okay, and then it continues that a Jewish woman may not deliver the child of a Gentile woman, because in doing so she is delivering her child who will engage in idol worship, and so on. Okay, like a Jewish woman may not nurse the child of a Gentile woman, but one may allow a Gentile woman to nurse the child of a Jewish woman on a Jewish woman's property, etc. And then the Mishnah continues. It says, one may be treated by Gentiles, provided that it is monetary treatment, but not personal treatment. And one may not have his hair cut by them anywhere due to the danger that the Gentile will kill him with the razor. That's what they're explaining the Mishnah means, right? The bold is what the Mishnah literally says. And this is the statement of Rabbi Meir. And the rabbis say, in the public thoroughfare, it is permitted to have one's hair cut by a Gentile, but not when the Jew and Gentile are alone together, right? And obviously in context, the fear is that the barber is going to kill the Jew. Right, so here we have the Talmud now commenting and discussing the Mishnah. So there's another Berita which says that one may purchase an animal from their shepherd, a Gentile shepherd, lest us be concerned that perhaps he engaged in bestiality with the animals. So basically, they're saying that on the Mishnah says that don't purchase do not keep an animal in the inns of Gentiles because they're suspected of bestiality, like they're going to sleep with the animals, whereas you have this Bereta saying that you can purchase an animal for an offering, like a sacrificial offering from a Gentile shepherd. So isn't this a contradiction? And this is what the Talmud does, right? It raises these contradictions and it discusses them and resolves them and this and that. So that's what it does. It says the Gemara explains the apparent contradiction in light of the ruling of the Mishnah. Let us be concerned that perhaps he engaged in bestiality with the animal, as it does not belong to him, and therefore it should be prohibited to purchase an animal from Gentile shepherds. The Gemara answers, their shepherd is fearful of engaging in bestiality with the animals under his care due to the forfeit of his wages that would result if this was discovered. So in other words, the resolution to the contradiction is that Gentiles won't sleep with the animals that they own because they're scared of losing money. Because if people find out that they slept with the animals, they're not going to buy the animals, right? So the suspicion of Gentiles committing bestiality, sleeping with animals, is still there, right? But now it's saying, but they're so greedy that they don't do it. They want to do it, but they're greedy, so they don't sleep with animals. Okay. Again, it says, let us say that their shepherd is fearful due to the forfeit of his wages. Then below it says, with regard to themselves, i.e. other Gentiles, okay, they are aware of each other's actions. They are fearful that they might be caught and therefore will not engage in bestiality with an animal belonging to another Gentile. But with regard to ourselves, the Jews, as we are not aware of them and their behavior, they are not fearful of us. Okay, the Gemara notes, Rabbah said, this is in accordance with the adage that people say, just as the stylist etches script upon marble, a sinner knows his fellow sinner. So basically, other Gentiles know that Gentiles engage in bestiality, that they sleep with each other, with animals. They sleep with animals, but the Gentiles assume that Jews don't know that because Jews are a different community. So you can see here the racism, right, of believing that bestiality, sleeping with animals, is so common among Gentiles that you cannot keep your animal in the inn of a Gentile, because a random Gentile on the street that you find, he's suspected of committing bestiality, right? And then even the justification given for why an animal that a Gentile himself owns, that a Gentile wouldn't engage with bestiality with it, is that he's greedy. So you can see the racism. And this also extends to Jewish women, right? Sexism. So the Talmud continues, but consider that which Rav Yosef teaches: a widow may not raise a dog due to the suspicion that he may engage in bestiality, and she may not allow a student of Torah to dwell as a lodger in her home. Granted, it makes sense that it is permitted for her to have a student of Torah lodging in her home, as he is regarded as discreet in her eyes, so she will not be deterred from sinning with him. But regard to a dog, since it would follow her around after she mates with it, she is afraid to engage in bestiality with it. Therefore, it should be permitted for her to raise a dog. The Gemara answers, since it will also follow her around in a case when she throws at a piece of meat, people will say the fact that it is following her is due to the meat she threw at it, and they will not suspect her of bestiality. Consequently, she will not be deterred from transgressing. What does this mean? Basically, they're saying that a Jewish widow, or a widow, any widow, it seems to be a Jewish widow, that she should not keep a dog, because if she keeps a dog, she would engage in bestiality with it. She would sleep with the dog, or she would be tempted to sleep with the dog. And the only reason, right now, the reason why Jewish women wouldn't sleep with animals or anyone, illicit sexual relations, like the motivation seems to be that they wouldn't engage with in prohibited sexual relation, because if that comes out to the society, if society finds out, they will shame the woman. But in the case of a dog cannot tell the society that, we're engaged. I'm sleeping with a widow, the Jewish widow. So there's no fear that the society is going to find out. So there's no deterrent. There's nothing stopping the woman. There's nothing stopping the widow from sleeping with the dog, because the dog's not going to speak and say that, I've committed bestiality with a woman, that I slept with a woman. You understand? So in other words, women don't engage in illicit sexual relations because they're afraid of what society will say. But in the case of a dog, he's not going to tell society that he slept with a woman, so the woman has no reason not to engage in bestiality with the dog. So you see that even now sexism, this idea that women want to sleep with animals, is there. And and what they've said here is that yes, the dog will follow her around, but people won't think that the dog is following her around because they slept together. People will think the dog is following her around because she fed him. So now the Talmud continues, with regard to female animals with females, what is the reason that we do not permit them to be secluded with each other? So this Mar Ukva Bar Hama says, it is because Gentiles frequent the wives of others, and on occasion the Gentile does not find her, and he finds the animal and engages in bestiality with it instead. So in other words, Gentiles, now this is a suspicion that Gentiles go around sleeping with other people's wives, committing adultery. Right? They go out and they try and find someone's wife to sleep with it. But sometimes the Gentile doesn't find someone's wife. So what does he do? He sleeps with an animal. Right? Sometimes he doesn't find a woman to commit adultery with, so he sleeps with an animal. So look at the racism here. This is the point. And if you wish, say, even when he finds the wife, he also engages in bestiality with the animal. As the master said, the animal of a Jew is more appealing to Gentiles than their own wives, as Rabbi Yohanan says. At the time when the snake came upon Eve, it infected her with moral contamination. The idea is this contamination lingers in all human beings. The Gemara asks, if that is so, a Jew should also be suspected of engaging in bestiality. The Gemara answers, with regard to the Jewish people who stood at Mount Sinai and received Torah, their contamination ended, whereas in the case of Gentiles who did not stand at Mount Sinai and receive the Torah, their contamination has not ended. So what they're saying here is that that the snake came upon Eve. So Eve and the snake, who is Satan, of course, slept together. Subhanallah, that's what they say. And by doing so, the snake, who is Satan, he left in Eve this desire to commit bestiality, and that desire goes on to her children as well, the children of Adam. And that's why Gentiles want to sleep with animals. But this doesn't apply to the Jewish people, because when they were given the Torah, this desire to sleep with animals went away from the Jews, but it remained with the Gentiles. And so that's why they're saying that a Jew is more appealing. The animal of a Jew is more appealing to Gentiles than their own wives. The animal of a Jew is more appealing to Gentiles than their own wives. So a Gentile would rather sleep with the animal that a Jew owns than sleep with his own wife. This is the outlook on Gentiles. And of course, this is something that Mira Beth Wasserman points out in her book, Jews, Gentiles, and Other Animals, that the exaltation is of Jewish males. The Gentiles, of course, are in a separate category, but women are somewhere between Jewish males and Gentiles. They're not completely on the Jewish side. They're not completely on the Gentile side. So, of course, they're associated with Sinai and this and that. But at the same time, just previously, we saw that a Jewish widow, seemingly a Jewish widow, that's what Mira Beth Wasserman believes, that, and of course the context of a student of Torah indicates that. But anyway, the idea is that a Jewish widow has the desire to sleep with a dog. So it seems that Jewish women, that they didn't fully participate at Sinai because they still have the desire to sleep with animals, whereas later on it said that the reason Jews don't want to sleep with animals is because they were given the Torah at Sinai and that cleansed them of their desire. So Jewish women are somewhere between animals and Gentiles. Then it continues. So a dilemma was raised before the sages. With regard to birds, what is the halacha? A Gentile suspected of engaging in bestiality with birds is basically the question. The Gemara, meaning the Talmud, answers, come and hear a proof that they are suspected of doing so. As Rav Yehuda says, that Shmuel says in the name of Rabbi Hanina, I once saw a Gentile who bought a goose in the market, engaged in bestiality with it, strangled it, roasted it, and then ate it. And similarly, Rabbi Yirmiyah of Difti says, I saw a certain Arab who bought a thigh of meat from the market and carved a space in it that was the size necessary to allow for penetration. Subsequently, he penetrated it, roasted it, and ate it. These incidents demonstrate that Gentiles are suspected of immoral conduct with fowl, meaning birds. So look at the images being presented here. The idea, so Gentiles in general are suspected. In general, Gentiles are suspected of sleeping with birds, that they're going to have sex with birds. In general. Why? Because two rabbis apparently saw two Gentiles doing this. So from that, they derive, well, generally the Gentiles do this. And look at the image of Gentiles being presented here. Not only do they sleep with the birds, but after sleeping with it, then they eat it. They eat it, right? He bought a goose, engaged in bestiality with it, strangled, roasted, and ate it. Here it was, he carved a space, he penetrated it, roasted it, and then ate it. That's the image of Gentiles. And here you can see Maimonides in his work codifying Jewish law. He confirms that, yes, these are the laws. So in case someone wants to say I'm taking anything out of context, which is, of course, not the case, this is what the Mishnah and Talmud teach. So Maimonides says, wherever a man is forbidden to enter in privacy with a woman, this act is permitted if he is accompanied by his wife, for his wife will guard him. A Jewish woman should not enter into privacy with a Gentile man, even if his wife is with him, for a Gentile's wife will not guard him against transgression, and they have no shame. No shame, meaning a Gentile wife won't have a problem with allowing her husband to sleep with a random woman in front of her. She doesn't have a problem. Similarly, a Jewish child should not be entrusted to a Gentile with the intent that he teach him to read or teach him a craft, for all Gentiles are suspect to engage in homosexual relations. Similarly, we do not house an animal in an inn belonging to Gentiles, not even a male in an inn with males and a female in an inn with females. Why? Obviously because they're suspected of sleeping with animals. They're suspected of homosexuality, suspected of sleeping with animals, suspected of sleeping with random people's wives in front of their own wives. Remember, of course, we also saw it saying that, you cannot take treatment from them. If it's personal treatment, you can't take it, and you also can't get your hair cut, at least not in private. Okay, so now looking back at what Maimonides says, he's going to say a few things here. He says, "We do not entrust an animal, beast, or fowl to a Gentile shepherd, not even a male animal to a male shepherd, and a female animal to a female shepherd, because they are all suspect to sodomize animals. We have already explained that Gentiles are forbidden to engage in homosexuality or sodomy. Why do we not entrust a female animal to a female Gentile? For all Gentiles are assumed to be promiscuous, and when a Gentile man will come to sleep with this Gentile woman, it is possible that he will not find her and instead sodomize the animal. Or even if he does find her, he may sodomize the animal. Even if he has a woman to sleep with, he's still gonna sleep with an animal. Similarly, Maimonides continues, so this is actually in Preservation of Life now, again by Maimonides in his Mishnah Torah, a different section. Similarly, it is forbidden for a Jew to enter into privacy with a Gentile for their suspected bloodshed. Suspect any random Gentile of murder, that they're going to murder you. Nor should one accompany Gentiles on a journey. If a Jew encounters a Gentile on a journey, he should make sure the Gentile is at his right. If they're making an ascent or a descent together, the Jew should be careful that he should be in the higher position and the Gentile in the lower position, but not vice versa, lest the Gentile fall on him with the intent of killing him. Nor should a Jew bend down before a Gentile, lest he crush his skull. If a Gentile asks a Jew where he is going, he should give him a misleading answer, as Jacob gave a misleading answer to Esau, as Genesis 33:14 says, "Until I come to my master and sire." It is forbidden to take medication from a Gentile unless there is no hope that the sick person will live. It is forbidden to be healed by a heretic, even if there is no hope that the person will live. It is permitted to take a medication from a Gentile for an animal or for an external affliction, example, a compress or a bandage. If, however, the affliction involves a danger to life, it is forbidden to take medication from them. The general rule is one should not take medication from a Gentile for any affliction for which one may desecrate the Sabbath. He continues, it is forbidden to have one's hair cut by a Gentile in a private domain, lest the barber kill him. If the person whose hair is being cut is an important personage, it is permitted because the Gentile will be afraid to kill him. It is also permitted for a person who creates an impression of being an important person for a Gentile barber, so that he will fear him and not kill him, to have his hair cut. It is forbidden to sell Gentiles any weaponry. We may not sharpen weapons for them or sell them a knife, chains, put on the necks of, etc. Anyway, the point is clear. Suspecting Gentiles of sleeping with animals, of committing murder, and all these sorts of things, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وآمنوا برسوله يؤتكم كفلين من رحمته ويجعل لكم نورا يؤتكم كفلين من رحمته ويجعل لكم نورا تمشون به ويغفر لكم والله غفور رحيم. Wallahu ghafurur rahim. O you who believe, fear Allah and believe in His Messenger. He will give you a double share of His mercy and will give you a light by which you will walk. And will give you a light by which you will walk, and He will forgive you. For Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. لئلا يعلم أهل الكتاب ألا يقدرون على شيء من فضل الله. لئلا يعلم أهل الكتاب ألا يقدرون على شيء من فضل الله وأن الفضل بيد الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. So that the people of the book may know that they have no power over anything of Allah's bounty, and that all bounty is in the hands of Allah. He gives it to whoever He wills. For Allah is the Lord of great bounty. Allah is the possessor of mighty bounty.